When 8-year-old Daniel Chun walked out of the restroom at a rest stop off Interstate 80 in western Nebraska on a Saturday afternoon in late August and discovered that his father's car, containing his father, stepmother, and 3 step-siblings, had driven away without him, the boy did exactly what his mother had always told him to do. He stayed put, stayed calm, waited for help to find him. That help arrived 3 hours later in the form of Ray Bones Morrison, a wiry biker with the Iron Kings MC, who noticed what no one else had: a child sitting alone like a stone, waiting for someone to remember he existed. What happened next would prove that being forgotten by one person doesn't mean you're forgettable. The rest stop off Interstate 80 in western Nebraska was the kind of place people passed through without noticing. A handful of parking spaces, a small brick building with restrooms and vending machines, a few picnic tables overlooking flat prairie that stretched to the horizon. At 4:23 p.m. on a Saturday in late August, Ray Morrison pulled his Harley into one of the motorcycle spots and killed the engine, grateful for a chance to stretch after 3 hours of highway. Bones was 44 years old, road captain for the Iron Kings MC out of Omaha. A wiry man with sun-weathered skin, a reddish-brown beard going gray at the edges, and forearms covered in tattoos that told the story of 20 years on 2 wheels. He'd earned his road name from his build, 6'2", but barely 170, all angles and sinew, like a collection of bones held together by leather and stubbornness. The patches on his black vest marked him as a man who'd found his family on the road when his blood family had failed him. He was headed to Minneapolis for a funeral, an old Marine buddy who'd lost his battle with cancer at 51, leaving behind a wife and 3 kids who deserved better. Bones had ridden out alone, needing the solitude of the highway to process another loss. He walked to the restroom, splashed water on his face, bought a Coke from the vending machine, and was heading back to his bike when he noticed the boy. The kid was sitting alone at one of the picnic tables, hunched over with his elbows on his knees, staring at the concrete. Maybe 8 or 9 years old, wearing cargo shorts and a faded Spider-Man t-shirt, sneakers that looked new, a small backpack on the bench beside him. His hair was brown and needed cutting, flopping over his forehead in a way that suggested nobody had gotten around to it lately. What struck Bones wasn't the boy's presence. Rest stops saw families all the time, but his stillness. Kids that age didn't sit still. They ran around, complained about being bored, begged their parents for snacks from the vending machines. This boy sat like a stone, like he'd been there for hours and expected to be there for hours more. Bones looked around the rest stop. A couple of cars in the parking area, an RV pulling out, a minivan with a family loading back in. None of them seemed connected to the boy. No adult hovering nearby. No parent calling him to hurry up. He walked over, keeping a respectful distance. "Hey there, buddy. You okay?" The boy looked up. His eyes were red-rimmed, his face pale despite the August heat. He'd been crying. Not recently, but enough that the evidence lingered. "I'm fine," the boy said in the automatic way kids say things they don't mean. Bones sat down on the opposite bench, setting his Coke on the table between them. "You waiting for someone?" The boy's jaw tightened. He looked away, back at the concrete, and didn't answer. "What's your name?" A long pause, then quietly. "Daniel. Daniel Chun. Nice to meet you, Daniel. I'm Ray, but my friends call me Bones." He gestured at his lanky frame. Pretty obvious why. The ghost of a smile flickered across Daniel's face, gone as quickly as it came. "Daniel, where are your parents? Your mom or dad around here somewhere?" The boy's face crumpled. Not dramatically, not with sobs or wailing, but with the quiet devastation of a child who'd been holding it together and couldn't anymore. "My dad forgot me." The words hit Bones like a punch to the chest. "Forgot you? What do you mean?" "We stopped here. Me and my dad and my stepmom and her kids. I went to the bathroom, and when I came out, the car was gone. They left without me." Daniel's voice cracked. "I've been waiting, but they haven't come back. I think my dad forgot I was here." Bones felt cold despite the summer heat. "How long have you been waiting, Daniel?" "I don't know. A long time. The sun was higher when they left." Bones looked at the sky. The sun was well into its afternoon descent. If the boy was telling the truth, and everything about him screamed that he was, he'd been alone at this rest stop for at least 2 or 3 hours. "Do you have a phone? Did you try calling your dad?" Daniel shook his head. "My phone's in the car." Dad said I didn't need to bring it into the bathroom. Do you know your dad's phone number? We can use mine. I don't remember it. It's saved in my phone. I just pushed the button. Daniel's face reddened with shame. I'm sorry. I should know it. Hey, that's okay. Lots of kids don't have numbers memorized anymore. Bones kept his voice calm, even though his mind was racing. What about your mom? You said your mom. Is she different from your stepmom? Mom lives in Minneapolis. I live with her mostly. I'm just visiting my dad for August. He moved to Idaho last year with Karen. That's my stepmom. So, are you traveling from Idaho to Minneapolis? Daniel nodded. Dad was driving me back to Mom. He said it was too expensive to fly. Bones did the mental math. Idaho to Minneapolis was easily a 12-hour drive, probably more depending on where in Idaho they'd started. This rest stop was maybe 3 or 4 hours from Minneapolis, which meant they were most of the way through the trip. Daniel, I want you to listen to me carefully. I'm going to help you, okay? We're going to figure this out together. But first, I need to make some phone calls. You stay right here with me. You're not alone anymore. The boy nodded, and something in his posture shifted, the weight of solitary fear lifting just slightly now that an adult was taking charge. Bones called 911 first, reported an abandoned child at the rest stop, gave them his information and the boy's name. The dispatcher said a state patrol unit would be there within 30 minutes. While they waited, Bones bought Daniel a sandwich and a juice from the vending machines. The boy admitted he hadn't eaten since breakfast, scarfing down the food like he was starving. Tell me about your mom, Bones said, trying to keep Daniel's mind off the situation. Daniel's face lit up for the first time. She's a teacher. She works at an elementary school in Minneapolis. She's really nice. She makes the best pancakes, not from mix. Real ones with blueberries. And she reads to me at night, even though I'm old enough to read myself, because she says it's our special time. She sounds great. She is. Emicia. This month felt really long. Did you not have fun with your dad? Daniel's brightness dimmed. It was okay at first, but Karen has 2 kids, and they don't like me much. And Dad's always busy with them now. It's like he trailed off. Like you don't fit anymore. Daniel looked at him with surprise. Yeah, exactly like that. Bones nodded. He understood that feeling better than he wanted to admit. His own father had started a new family when Bones was 10, and the slow erasure of being replaced, of becoming inconvenient, was something that never fully healed. The Nebraska State Patrol arrived 22 minutes later. A trooper named Vasquez who was professional and kind, who crouched down to Daniel's level and spoke to him gently, who took Bones' statement and thanked him for staying with the boy. We're trying to reach the father now, Vasquez told Bones privately while another trooper sat with Daniel. Got a hit on the vehicle registration from the description the boy gave us. They're westbound on I-80, pulled over about 60 miles from here. Father apparently didn't realize the boy wasn't in the vehicle until they stopped for gas. 60 miles, Bones repeated. They drove 60 miles before noticing their kid wasn't in the car. Vasquez's expression tightened. Vehicle had 7 people in it, including 4 children. Father says he assumed Daniel was sleeping in the back with the other kids. Stepmother says she thought he was in the bathroom at the gas station and waited, but then assumed he'd gotten in when she wasn't looking. That's a lot of assumptions about an 8-year-old. Yes, sir, it is. Father's turning around now. Should be here in about an hour and a half. And then what? You hand Daniel back to a man who forgot he existed for 3 hours. Vasquez's jaw tightened. That's above my pay grade, sir, but I can tell you that Child Protective Services will be notified and there'll be a report filed. Bones looked over at Daniel, who was telling the other trooper about his mom, about Minneapolis, about how he couldn't wait to see her. His mother's in Minneapolis, Bones said. Daniel told me she has primary custody. The dad was just driving him back at the end of his summer visit. We're trying to reach her now. Numbers in the system from the custody arrangement. Bones made a decision. I'm headed to Minneapolis anyway. Funeral of a friend tomorrow. If the mother wants, I can drive Daniel the rest of the way. Save the dad the trip. Save the boy from having to get back in a car with people who forgot him. Vasquez studied him. The leather vest, the patches, the road-worn appearance of a man who lived on the margins of polite society. That's a generous offer, sir, but we can't just release a minor to a stranger, even a well-meaning one. I get it. but maybe mention it to the mother when you reach her. Give her my number. Let her decide. Bones wrote his name and phone number on a page from the small notebook he carried, handed it to the trooper, and went back to sit with Daniel. Your dad's coming back, he told the boy. He realized you weren't in the car, and he's turning around. Daniel's reaction wasn't relief. It was resignation. Okay, you don't seem happy about that. He didn't notice for 60 miles. That's a long time to not notice your kid is gone. Bones had no argument for that. They sat together at the picnic table while the afternoon faded toward evening. Daniel talked about his mom, his school, his best friend Trevor, who lived 2 streets over and had a trampoline in his backyard. He talked about wanting a dog, but his mom saying their apartment didn't allow pets. He talked about everything except his father. Bones listened. Sometimes that was what kids needed most. Someone to listen without judging, without fixing, without explaining away their feelings. His phone rang at 6:47 p.m. Unknown number, Minneapolis area code. Hello, is this Ray Morrison? A woman's voice, tight, with barely controlled emotion. That's right. My name is Angela Chun. I'm Daniel's mother. The police gave me your number. They said you found my son at a rest stop and stayed with him. Yes, ma'am. He's right here with me. He's safe. He heard her exhale, a sound of relief so profound it was almost painful. Can I talk to him, please? Bones handed the phone to Daniel. It's your mom. The boy's face transformed. Mom? Mom. And then he was crying. Really crying. The tears he'd been holding back for hours finally breaking free. I was so scared. Dad forgot me. He just left, and I didn't know what to do. But this man found me, the biker man, and he stayed with me and got me food. And he's really nice, Mom. He listened to me. Bones stepped away to give them privacy, walking to the edge of the parking lot where he could still see Daniel but not hear the conversation. The boy talked for 10 minutes, laughing and crying in alternating waves, before finally walking over to hand the phone back. She wants to talk to you again. Bones took the phone. Mrs. Chun. Ms., she corrected gently. I took my name back after the divorce. Mr. Morrison, I don't know how to thank you. The police told me Daniel was alone at that rest stop for almost 3 hours before you found him. Anything could have happened. He's a brave kid. He kept it together even though he was scared. You should be proud of him. I am. I'm also furious at his father, but that's a separate issue. She paused. The police said you offered to drive Daniel the rest of the way to Minneapolis. Is that offer still open? Yes, ma'am. I'm headed there anyway. I'd be happy to bring him home. I already spoke with the troopers. They're going to do a background check, verify your identity, all of that. But assuming it clears, and they said you have no criminal record, I would rather my son spend 3 hours with a kind stranger than get back in a car with his father right now. Is that terrible of me? No, ma'am. I think that's a mother protecting her child. Can you put Daniel back on? I need to explain what's happening. Bones handed the phone over, and Daniel listened while his mother explained that instead of waiting for his dad, he was going to ride with Bones the rest of the way to Minneapolis. The boy's face showed surprise, then something that looked remarkably like relief. Really? I can go with Bones. He looked at the biker with newfound wonder. Okay, Mom. I trust him. He's got a really cool motorcycle. The background check cleared in 40 minutes. Bones had been scrupulously legal for the past 2 decades, knowing that his MC affiliation meant any slip-up would be magnified tenfold. The troopers coordinated with the father, who was apparently relieved to not have to drive another 2 hours, which told Bones everything he needed to know about the man's priorities. At 7:34 p.m., Daniel climbed onto the back of Bones's Harley, wearing a borrowed helmet from the trooper's trunk. His small arms wrapped around Bones's midsection, his backpack secured in the saddlebag. You ready? Bones asked. I've never been on a motorcycle before. Then this is going to be a good memory to replace the bad one. Hold on tight. We got about 3 hours ahead of us. They rode through the Nebraska evening and into Minnesota as the sun set and the stars emerged. Bones kept the speed reasonable, checking his mirrors constantly to make sure Daniel was secure. The boy's grip was tight at first, nervous, but gradually relaxed as the miles passed. They stopped once for gas and bathroom breaks, and Bones bought Daniel an ice cream sandwich from the station's freezer, because the boy admitted he'd never had one, and that seemed like a tragedy that needed correcting immediately. "This is the best day ever," Daniel said, chocolate smeared on his chin, standing beside the motorcycle under the gas station lights. "I mean, the beginning was really bad, but this part is the best." "Sometimes the worst days turn into the best stories," Bones said. "Someday you'll tell people about the time you got left at a rest stop and a biker drove you home, and it'll be an adventure instead of a tragedy. Is that what happened to you? Bad days that turn into good stories." Bones thought about his own childhood. The absent father, the struggling mother, the years of feeling like he didn't belong anywhere until he found the MC. "Yeah, kid, that's exactly what happened to me." They pulled into Minneapolis at 10:52 p.m. Angela Chun was waiting outside her apartment building, pacing the sidewalk, checking her phone every 30 seconds. When she saw the motorcycle's headlight turn onto her street, she ran toward them. Daniel barely waited for the bike to stop before scrambling off and sprinting to his mother. Angela caught him, lifted him despite his size, held him so tightly that Bones could see the muscles straining in her arms. She was crying. Daniel was crying. Even Bones felt his eyes burning as he watched the reunion. "Thank you," Angela said finally, walking over to him with Daniel's hand firmly clasped in hers. She was younger than he'd expected, maybe mid-30s, with Daniel's brown hair and a face that showed both exhaustion and overwhelming relief. "Thank you doesn't feel like enough. You saved my son. I just gave him a ride. He saved himself by staying put and staying calm." Angela reached out and hugged him. This stranger in leather, this biker who'd appeared in her son's worst moment and turned it into an adventure. Bones hugged her back, awkwardly but sincerely. "Can Bones come to breakfast tomorrow?" Daniel asked. "Please, Mom. He has a funeral, but maybe after." Angela looked at Bones. "You're welcome anytime. I mean that. You're family now, as far as we're concerned." Bones thought about the word family, about the blood family that had failed him, the MC family that had saved him, and now this unexpected connection forged on a highway in Nebraska. "I'd like that," he said. "Breakfast sounds good." 3 months later, Bones made the ride to Minneapolis again. Not for a funeral this time, but for Daniel's 9th birthday party. He brought a gift, a kid-sized leather jacket with a custom patch on the back that read Honorary Road Captain. Daniel wore it for the rest of the day, showing everyone who would look, telling the story of how he got left at a rest stop and a biker saved him. "He's not just a biker," Daniel corrected one of his friends. "He's my friend Bones, and he drove 200 miles to bring me home." Angela watched from the kitchen doorway, catching Bones's eye and mouthing thank you for what must have been the 100th time. The custody arrangement changed after that summer. Daniel's father got supervised visitation only, penning a review that would probably never go his way. Daniel didn't seem to mind. He had his mom, his friend Trevor with the trampoline, and a biker in Omaha who called every Sunday to check in. "You know what I figured out?" Daniel said during one of those calls, about a year after the rest stop. "What's that, buddy?" "My dad forgetting me was the worst thing that ever happened to me, but it's also how I met you. So maybe it wasn't all bad." Bones smiled into the phone. "Sometimes the worst days turn into the best stories. Remember?" "I remember." "And Bones? Thanks for seeing me. When I was sitting there all alone, thinking nobody was ever going to notice I was gone, you noticed. You saw me. I'll always see you, Daniel. That's what friends do. Some families are born. Some are found at rest stops off Interstate 80, forged in the space between abandonment and rescue, between being forgotten and being seen. The Iron King's MC has a new tradition now. Every August, on the anniversary of that day, Bones rides out to that rest stop in western Nebraska. He sits at the picnic table, drinks a Coke, and thinks about a scared kid who held it together long enough for help to arrive. And then he rides home, knowing that somewhere in Minneapolis, a boy is wearing a leather jacket with Honorary Road Captain on the back, telling anyone who'll listen about the day a biker drove 200 miles to bring him home.